Welcome once again to Nairobi Lit Fest. It's been an incredible morning. We have stamped on narratives. We have decided to create new narratives. My name is Alea Kassam. I am your festival host for today and tomorrow. I'm so excited to be here. I love, yes, woo! Can I get a little louder? Woo! I love festivals. I love Nairobi. I absolutely love the two thinkers and writers that are on stage here today. This is one of the sessions I have most been looking forward to. And I think really in this moment, there's many emotions that are running through our bodies. And I think rage and fury are absolutely two of them that are very present. They are simmering in our blood and living under our skin. And I'm truly grateful that we're holding space and that we get to be guided along this conversation by two incredible thinkers. On stage is Djamila Ribeiro, who we're so grateful to welcome back to Nairobi. She was with us for Macondo last year. Karibu Tena. And moderating will be Kedolwa, so one of my favorite writers as well. Please give them a warm welcome and enjoy the conversation.
Is it on? Hello, hello, hello. It's working? No? Okay, I can't hear myself, which is great. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Please wave at us from the back. Okay, the sun is out, so we should be smiling. Okay. I'm Kedolwa, as you've heard from Alea. I'm a writer. I live in Nairobi. I'm also a community organizer, and I'm a very furious person. And I think you should be a furious person, too. And another furious person is Djamila, who is seated here with me. Djamila is a philosopher, which was my dream major, but I couldn't take it, so I'm so glad you got to do philosophy. Djamila is also an author of 4 books. Five books, sorry, and one just came out? Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about feminist fury, which I also like to call rage. Would you like to say something before we go in? Okay. I feel like this conversation is so apt to the moment that we're in right now as a country and also as a world. I feel like we've been having like a whole year of just feeling enraged, even if things are not actively happening in your home or in your home country. In one way or another, I know all of us are carrying some type of rage. And the rage that we are experiencing in Kenya right now has forced us to dream out of our comfort zones. It has forced us out of our houses and out of our normal routines. And we are dreaming not because it's the only option, but because we're enraged, right? And for me, I feel like I can't start this conversation without appreciating the efforts that Kenyans have been putting this last weeks, and also just recognizing that we are collectively saying that our rage is a container for the dreams and hopes that we want and for the world that we're creating, because the world that we have now is not sustaining our dreams. So with that, I'd like us to take around 10-15 seconds just to appreciate and honor the people who have fallen because they dared to be enraged enough to dream. Okay, thank you. That was very disciplined. Thank you very much. My first question to you, just to guide our conversation, is to ask you, where in your body do you carry your fury?
Well, good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to thank NBO Festival for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here for the second time. Last year I came to Macondo Literary Festival. And also I'd like to show my solidarity with these Kenyan people that were brutally assassinated for, reivindicate their rights. And it's very sad. I come from Brazil, and we know what this kind of brutality is, especially being black people. I don't know if you are familiar with the Brazilian situation. Most of the people don't know too much about Brazil. When I say that I'm Brazilian, people always think about soccer and carnival and samba. And of course, we love samba, but Brazil is so much more than that. Brazil was the last country in America to end slavery. Most of the population in Brazil are black. And we are facing the policy brutality in Brazil as well. And I think it's very important also to talk about that. And that's why I believe that the fury is a very important and strategic tool to confront system of oppression. So I come from a country that the rage was they taught us that we couldn't feel rage, that rage was not a good thing, especially for a woman. So you have to be nice, you have to accept the things the way they are. So especially in colonial societies, through religion, they imposed it to us that rage, fury was a bad thing. So that we have to be, good people is like you have to accept the facts, and you cannot use the fury against the system, because they are afraid, of course, that we use our fury, that you find out that this fury is a very important tool to change things. So as a feminist, I am a feminist, I'm a black feminist, I think that fury is a necessity. I think that fury is a collective way to change things, to organize themselves. But also I think that this fury needed to be put in the right direction. I think you have to understand how to use our fury. Since Audre Lorde in the United States, Lélia Gonzalez in Brazil, and a lot of Latina feminists, they teach us that the fury needed to be used as a strategy. You cannot allow the rage to consume us, to kill us. So that's why I think it's so important to think about this feeling, but put that in the right direction, and how can you use the fury to change the things. In Brazil, I am part of a religion, Afro-Brazilian religion, Candomblé. And in Candomblé, we have different goddesses and gods. I don't know if you are familiar, but there is a orixá, a female goddess in Candomblé, called Oya Inhansã. Inhansã, she's a very important goddess in the Yoruba mythology. And so Inhansã is known as an angry orixá, an angry goddess. But there are two, Oya can be represented by two animals, the butterfly and the buffalo. So Oya teaches that we needed to know the time to be butterfly, but we needed to know the time to be a buffalo. And we have to understand the time you have to be buffalo. We have to use our rage, our anger to change things, our horns to change things. So Oya teach me a lot. And in Brazil, there are a lot of Afro-Brazilian feminists who think feminism through these representations. And I think it's a way to confront all these colonial impositions that they expect for us. and how it's important to see rage as a very important tool, and rage is not a bad thing. You cannot feel guilty because you feel angry. Sometimes, not, especially women, when you are angry, we feel guilt because of that, especially in public, because people can call us crazy, hysterical, this hysterical woman, what they are doing. But if you're a man, oh, maybe this guy is, he have a strong personality, so that's why he behaved like that. So I think coming from this African heritage in Brazil, the Afro-Brazilian religion, the rage for me, the fury, is a very important feeling to organizing themselves to be able to transcend the impositions of colonialism.
Wow, thank you so much for that reflection. Yeah, deserves a clap. I have a follow-up reflection on that, but before I do, I've been asked to make an announcement for the following cars: KCA 653L, KDM 303F, and KCN 848B. If any of these are your cars, please see Alea or the organizer next to Alea. Thank you. Okay, back to Fury. I think you've made a very important point about differentiating between respectability and how we've been taught we have to be respectable when we're negotiating for our lives under the rules of colonialism and imperialism, versus taking back our fury and saying, well, this is the tool that I have to fight for what I need or what my community needs for survival. How would you say you've taught or you've been taught to hold on to that and not to bow down when people push against your fury, especially powers and especially non-Black, powers that kind of dictate how everything in the global system operates?
Well, I think religion can impose it to us in Brazil. Brazil, it's a Christian country, and impose it to us that the way that we should behave ourselves, especially being women. And also, you don't want to be the angry Black woman sometimes, because people all the time, you are an angry Black woman. And it's very funny because I meditate a lot, and because I don't want to, I don't want to let the angry kill me, like historically killed my ancestors, because I try to use the anger in the right direction, not against myself, so I meditate a lot. So usually, I am a very calm person, usually. And it's very funny because sometimes I'm holding talks in Brazil and I talk like that, I'm very calm. And in the end of the panel, people approach me to say, oh, but you are so angry. And I think it's very interesting because, but why is that? No, but I didn't like what you said. Oh, thank you for that, because I'm talking about very difficult things. Yeah. So you don't have, it's supposed to you not to like that. So I think people, they don't want to feel uncomfortable. So the fury make people feel uncomfortable. The way we stand up for ourselves, the way we organize themselves. And of course that people who are in power, they don't want us to stand up for ourselves. Yeah. So even if I'm talking like that, or even if I am in a demonstration, they will call me an angry Black woman anyway, because they don't want us to be aware of our conditions, because we can only change things when we are aware of the oppression. Yeah. So in Brazil, for a long time, for example, Black people, a lot of Black people, they didn't know they are Black because of the miscegenation process, because of the racial democracy myth, this romantic idea of non-conflict in Brazil based on race. So for a long time, people in Brazil, they didn't know they are Black. So for a long time, they didn't know they have a problem to confront. The racism was a problem. Yeah. So a way to dominate us is to not let us be aware of our domination system. So when we do that, when you talk about that, when you write books, when we, I don't know, there are different ways of fight, I believe. When we do that, people will label us like angry people anyway. So I think that's why we have to, you know, not be concerned about that, the way people will label us, because we have to define ourselves. You have to be able to define ourselves and to understand that this theory, depend on the way you are going to use it, it's going to bother the system anyway. So be angry, use your fury to change things the way you feel it's better for you. Because I don't think you have to, you know, impose the ways people have to fight. I don't agree with this kind of, you know, things. Sometimes people think that only going to demonstrations is a way to fight, or only being in an organization. I don't think. I think there are different ways to fight. So find your way and do that. Use this fury to change things, not against yourself, against the system.
I feel like that's so important for us to hear as Kenyans right now, and people who live in Kenya as well. I think one thing that we've been struggling with is how to keep up the momentum of fury, especially against the state, and beyond that, like the global imperial network. So I think in terms of, because you're a feminist organizer, in terms of organizing and just keeping up the morale of, you know, even this past weeks we've been telling each other on Twitter, stay angry, usiache kasirika, let me remind you why you're angry. In terms of keeping up the momentum so that people don't forget and like fall back to not even the comfort zone, but just like an area where, you know, the oppression is manageable and we're able to kind of live in that. We're just floating. Like, how do you keep the momentum of fury in the movements that you build?
Well, I think it's to keep that fury for me. When we organizing themselves, when you do things to change that, because of course you go to demonstrations, but you cannot be in the streets all over the year,
time,
because all the time, because you have to work, you have to do our things. I think there are moments that you have to go to the streets, you have to do that, and you have to keep doing what we are, you know, doing in our organizations or in our books or, I don't know, in our institutions. Because I think sometimes the fury is not only about to show people that you are very angry. I think sometimes the fury is when we write a very important piece to confront what's going on in your country. The fury is when we organize, you know, I don't know, a book seal to publish Black people. The fury is when we, even with all the violence that we feel in academia, we continue studying to get to have our, you know, graduation. So there are different ways to keep this fury. That's why I don't think that's why I am against label the way you have to fight. There are different ways of doing that and to keep this fury. So I believe in that you can use this fury in different ways and different moments and different forms to keep this fury. So now we are talking about that. I think it's a way to do that in a panel. The feminist fury will save us. I love the name of this panel because I truly believe in that. The feminist fury will save us because I truly believe that women, I travel a lot around the roads, and it's very interesting how I can see women, young women, they are leading the change that we believe. Here in Kenya, I had the opportunity last year to meet some young feminists who are doing incredible work in Brazil you have incredible women leading movements, important movements in Brazil. So I truly believe that the feminist theory or the theory of women, independent if they are feminists or not, are going to bring some change that we believe. That's why I believe that there are different ways to keep this theory.
Okay, thank you. I have another announcement, but actually this is awkward because this is actually me, and I'm on the panel. So if the person could give us 30 minutes. Yeah, someone can move it, it's fine. When I made the first announcement, I was like, oh, the last one is me.
I know, it's always awkward. The conversation is so delicious. I'm like, do we really have to pause for this? We'll figure it out.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry about that. I really wanted to ask about publishing because you mentioned about publishing, and I know as an Afro-Brazilian publisher who's also a feminist and you're also a woman, and I know how that space can be so limiting and pigeonholed. I'm so curious how you use your fury and anger and rage to navigate that space and to make sure that you're published, your voice is heard, and also people in your context also get published and their voices are heard.
Yes, I run a book seal in Brazil in which we publish Black authors in Brazil, most female authors, but we also publish male authors. And actually, I used my rage to create this label because I've studied philosophy, as you mentioned. And in Brazil, studying philosophy means studying the thought of European white guys, does that. This is philosophy in Brazil. So for me, it was very difficult to study African philosophy, for example. When I asked the professor about that, his answer was, there is no such a thing as African philosophy. Oh. So when I decided to study female philosophers, it was another nightmare. So I had to fight during my graduation to study the thinkers I wanted to study. So it was very difficult to me. The environmental was very hostile to me. I had to use my anger to keep in the university, to finish my graduation. And then I got my master with a dissertation about mostly of my reference were women. And it was very difficult to do that, to convince my professors to be my advisors and all that things. So when I finished my dissertation, it was in 2015. I was already 35 years old. I finished my graduation when I was 32. So I think that I like to say that to inspire women to not to give up, I was already 32 years old when I finished my graduation. So after that, 2015, when I finished my dissertation, I decided to do something with that anger. Because for 1 year, I was like feeling, that kind of angry that can destroy yourself. I was very mad about everything I had to deal during my graduation. I was really, really, really very, very angry. So one day, I decided to do something with that. So I said, well, I'm going to I'm going to bring a revenge for myself because I need to do something. So I decided to publish myself. My first book I published by myself. And I decided to create this collection of books called Plural Feminists. So the first book was mine. And I decided to publish other Black intellectuals in Brazil as well. So I did that. I used my anger to confront the editorial market in Brazil that until 2000 2016 was publishing only majority white men and white people in Brazil. So in 2017, I decided to create this label, and it's an independent project, and I had to study the editorial marketing, the publishing marketing. So I studied about that. So I decided to organize book launches in public spaces, in poor places around the country, because Brazil is a huge country, very, very big. So I decided to go to different regions of Brazil with these books. I decided to bring the community together. And the books they have affordable prices, and they have a didactic language, because we wanted to reach people, actually. And the project was very successful, besides all the difficulties that you have to confront. So for me, it was a way to use my anger and in a way to promote a collective work. And now most of these authors that we have been published for these 5 years, now in Brazil, they are well known in Brazil. Today, they are publishing in major publishing houses. There is one specifically that today he's a minister in Brazil.
Oh, wow.
And I published him in 2018. So today in Brazil, I am in a major publishing house because I had to publish myself. But I continue with this project because for me it's very important to keep publishing Black people in Brazil. And yesterday, in the major newspaper in Brazil, they wrote about the new collection that I'm going to coordinate. The name is Feminism from the Global South. I'm going to coordinate a new collection because I want to publish women from the Global South. I wanted to, be able to dialogue, because in Brazil, we are always looking up to Europe, to the global north in Brazil, all the time. And usually people don't know, sometimes thinkers, even in Latin America, in Brazil, people don't know because you are always looking up to United States or to Europe. Yeah. That's why I decided to publish Feminists from the Global South. The first book is called Dalit Feminism, a book that we are going to publish this year that was written by Dalit feminists from India. And I hope to publish non-fiction writers from Kenya, from Nigeria, for other countries in Africa, in Latin America, because I think this dialogue from the South is very important to us, and you have to use our anger to confront the politics of translations, because the politics of translations are still colonial politics. So I am a Brazilian woman. I speak Brazilian Portuguese. So for me, it's much, much harder to get a translation, especially because I am a non-fiction writer. People are not interested about reflections from Brazilian women, especially Black Brazilian women. So that's why for me it's very important to confront these politics and be able to translate people from the Global South. Because I'm a writer that I have to fight to be translated. I had to, I have translations to French, to Italian, Spanish, but I have to do that. I have to negotiate that. I have to fight for that. And this year, my book will be published in English for the first time. It's my first English translation of my book, Lugar de Fala. In English, they translate it as Where We Stand. It will come out in August by Yale University Press. So I hope, who wrote the foreword was Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, the great writer Chimamanda. And I think it's a very important example of solidarity from the Global South, because it's the first time that I'm going to be published in the United States. The American market, it's very, very hard to get in. They translate only 3% of books per year, only 3%. They are very centered in themselves. They don't look, they are not concerned about other geographies, usually. So when Chimamanda came to Brazil in 2022, I had the opportunity to be the moderator of the panel, and we talked, and I talked to her about the difficulty of being a Brazilian intellectual, and she said to me, I really want to read the books written by Brazilian women. And I said, yes, it's very difficult to get a translation. I told her that I was going to be translated to English. And in the first night that we were together, she told me, I want to be part of your book. And I was like, oh my God. So, and I said, oh, okay. So when the book was almost done, I wrote her and she sent the foreword. So this is the importance of the solidarity between the Global South, because Chimamanda, she's like a godmother now for me in the United States, because she knows what it means to be a woman from Africa in the United States. Yeah. So she's holding my hands and showing to people how it's important to us to create this kind of solidarity networks between the Global South. So if today in the United States I am receiving invitations to release my books in important places in the United States, I know it's because Chimamanda wrote the foreword of the book. So I'm very grateful, but at the same time I understand how powerful it is, this kind of solidarity, and how it's important to us to be able to create more solidarity networks between the Global South.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know there's so many people who are aspiring to publish in Kenya, because also authors here have a lot of trouble getting published, because you have to get published in Europe or America, and then the book coming back here, there's a lot of difficulty in access. So just hearing that is so inspiring, and I hope that I can see people in the audience who will be publishers in future. I hope you'll connect to Djamila after this. So we have 15 minutes, and I really, really, really wanted to hear from the audience if you have any questions or reflections, either for Djamila or myself, or just in general. I would like to open the floor up now. Is that good? Yeah. There's a hand there and here, there first, and then here. There's a mic.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for this really interesting conversation. My question is, where does the role of fury, feminist fury, fall within Black liberation movement? I ask this in the context of history of Black Panthers and the misogyny within that movement. So when you're fighting racial injustice, and you also have to battle with misogyny within that movement, what are your thoughts about that? And that could go to both of you. I've heard that the Kenyan protests, and maybe I'm not getting this right, but I'd actually like to hear about that, that within the context of these protests that have happened over the last week, that many of the drivers, even though it's called leaderless, are well-known misogynists. And I'm curious about how Kenyan women have dealt with that tension. Thank you.
Yeah, I can go first, because I've seen it and I've felt it and I hate it. But I think what is happening now is that there's a broader goal that is more defined, and in the moment that we're in as a country, it's like, okay, these people are misogynist and other words that I will not use. And there's also a larger battle. And the hope, I think, for me that I have in my heart is that in the process of this organizing and movement building, that people will have introspection and they'll reflect inwards and see that the oppressions that we're facing and that they're advancing in how they behave and how they think are all connected. And hopefully they'll be held within the communities that they're operating within. And also now those communities are broadening and they're connecting with the bigger movement of trying to find a better world for Kenyans to live in and for other people to live in. And all of it is being held in hope, because even the revolution itself is being carried in the container of rage and hope. And I really can't say that we're going to pause everything and make sure the misogynists are dealt with fast. So my tactic has just been to hope that their communities will hold them and that they'll do better, but also not entertaining the nonsense.
Yeah, I can talk about my experience in Brazil as well. In Brazil, in the past years, especially the Black feminist movement, we are, talking a lot about the mental health. I think it's very important for us as Black people to talk about that, because we know how the racism can make us, be sick in different ways. That's why I think this theory needed to be used with strategy and not in a way to not against ourselves. That's why I think it's very important to create this kind of collective initiative to be able to talk, to be able to, a process of healing for ourselves. In Brazil, we are doing it a lot. In different communities, women are organizing themselves to do that. In São Paulo, I run an institute where we provide psychological assistance for Black women, because we think that to keep this fury, to keep this angry, we need to be healthy. So how do you do that? So that's why I think it's so important to create this kind of moments just to talk about our pains, just to talk about how difficult it is for all of us, just to cry sometimes, because we are taught to be strong. You have to be strong. In Brazil, people tell us all the time, you are a Black woman, you have to be strong. But I am a person, I am a human. And vulnerability is part of being a human. When people impose this kind of, things that we have to be strong all the time, it's a process of dehumanization. So that's why I think as a human being, I have to be the right to not be well sometimes, to say that I'm not okay, that I don't want to go to these demonstrations today because I'm not feeling okay. Maybe I can do something else. I need help sometimes. We as Black women don't ask for help sometimes because you think that it's a weak thing to do. So yes, to keep this fury, I think it's very complex to think about that. But also it's important to understand that we are human beings and you have the right to be treated like human beings and fight for this kind of humanity.
Thank you. I saw Angoi's hand up.
Hi. So
Hi.
My question is actually where you all have just gone right now. I was just going to invite a reflection on how anger can be held in that in-breath and out-breath, right? Like, where is the moment to pause? Where is the moment for care? And what are the strategies, both individual as well as collective? And I think Djamila was already speaking to some of that. Like, what are those collective institutions that we're creating and collective moments of pause and care and rest, so that then our rage is connected to the deep, deep place of love. That it's not a rage that is disconnected from our humanity, that is a hardening kind of rage. It's a rage fueled by love. Yeah, but that's where you were going already.
Oh yes, I agree with you. When other lords say that that we need to care for ourselves, it's a demonstration of love. I totally agree, because in societies that they want us to be defeated, in a society that they want us to not like ourselves, I think it's very revolutionary when we like ourselves, or we understand that it's important to take care of ourselves as an expression of love, of self-love, of love for our community. So I agree it's connected to love, because we understood that this kind of rage, it's a rage to transform the society. It's a rage to bring collective way outs. We are fighting to make the society better. We are not fighting to, to use this rage to hate ourselves. We are confront this hate that they imposed it to us, especially this self-hate. As Black people, we know that, I don't know here, but in Brazil, we are taught to hate ourselves, to not like the way you look like. I was raised in a society that when I turned on the television, I didn't see anybody like me. So in Brazil, we are the majority of the population, but for a long time in Brazil, people in arts, people in television, people in the editorial market, they were white people. So, and if you don't have the possibility of dream, it's a way to kill yourself. So when I was a little child, for me it was very difficult to deal with this situation. In my house, my father was an activist, so from the Black movement. So he was taughting me and my brothers and sisters to love ourselves. But at the time that I had to go to schools and open the books and don't see anybody like me, or turn on the television, don't see anybody like me. So how do you find love in this kind of situation? So I found this love because I had the privilege to be raised in a family, in an activist family, and since early age, I had the opportunity to be part of movements in Brazil who taught me all these things that I'm sharing with you today. So the love of my mother, the love of my grandmother, the love of the Black feminist movement in Brazil saved myself and taught me that this fury is a way to express love for ourselves and for our community. So I totally believe in that. And for me, that's why we need to understand when you want to get a pause, when you don't want to be part of this movement or that movement, you have to be able to take care of ourselves, because historically, as Black women, we are taught to take care of everybody. So who take care of ourselves? So we have to do this job. And doing that is an expression of love, for sure.
That is so awesome. I agree. We have 5 minutes. If there's anyone else with a question, we can take one more question and then close it up. Right there.
Hi.
Hi.
You say that Brazil is a highly racial country, and I was drawn back to the fact that Black feminism and Western feminism are two different things, that they have evolved from different cultures and different ethos. And I was wondering what it is like to be a Black feminist in Brazil, when perhaps you're going for protests in your country. Do the differences come into play in your in the overall fight by feminists in Brazil?
Well, the Black feminism in Brazil, the movements started in the 80s in Brazil. And for a long time, it was seen as we, as Black feminists, we want to divide the movement. For a long time, we had to deal with this kind of accusations that why Black feminism, we are all women, and why is that, So today in Brazil, we can say that the Black feminism in Brazil is much more known in Brazil today, because we were able to publish our books, we were able to confront the editorial market today in Brazil. But of course, we are still dealing with all these difficulties, because being a black woman in a country that most of women like me, they are domestic workers. Most of the women like me, they are living in favelas, slums in Brazil. I am the first person in my family to go to university due to public policies in terms of education. So my mom was a domestic worker. My grandmother was a domestic worker. This cycle was broken in my generation. So we are, of course, still dealing with all these structural oppressions, but in the same time, I think we understood our power as well. I think you have to understand our power to change things. And in Brazil, the movement is very strong. The black feminist movement in Brazil today is very, very strong. We are able to speak out and to talk about the reality of black women, to talk about intersectionality, that we are not dividing anything. We are just naming our oppression to be able to change things, because you cannot change a problem if you don't name it. So I have to name that I am a black woman and to understand the consequences of being a black woman. But being a black Afro-Brazilian feminist, it's harder in the way that people don't know about what we are doing in the rest of the world. So there are a lot of American feminists that are coming to Brazil. I was part of the movement to translate these women in Brazil, to translate Angela Davis, Patricia Hill Collins. I was part of this movement. Angela Davis, for example, she was published in Brazil in 2016. So it's very recent. And I was part of this movement to translate these women. But on the other hand, I think that in the United States, these women, they are very important to us, of course. They are important intellectuals. We really admire their work. But I think that in the United States, for example, they don't exchange too much with us, because we are working to promote their work in Brazil, but we don't feel the same thing in the United States. And I think that we, as Brazilian, who speak Brazilian Portuguese, to be able to be here today, is talking to you, I had to study English. In Brazil, you do not learn English as a second language. You have to pay to learn English. That's why a lot of people in Brazil do not speak English, because you don't have the economic conditions to do that. So, but I think that the global north, they don't want to exchange too much with us. So they come to our countries, we read them, we are publishing them, but the same thing is not happening in their countries. So that's why sometimes people don't like me in the United States, because I talk about that all the time. And I'm going to move to New York City in August. I'm going to teach there at NYU. And it's very interesting, because I want to teach about Afro-Brazilian feminism, and there are not any book translated to English. So I'm preparing my classes, and I have to translate the pieces that I want to present to my students. So this is a challenge for us being Brazilians, because when we don't speak English, English is not our language. When Spanish is not our language as well, because even in South America, we are kind of isolated. Brazil, it's an island continent. It's a continent in terms of size, because you are huge. But on the other hand, we are an island, because we are the only country in South America speaking Portuguese. The other countries, they speak Spanish. So this is the challenge for us, to being Afro-Brazilian feminists, to be able to make our work international, to be able to create this kind of bridges between other countries. Because in Brazil, especially in the Black movement, we are very open to other movements, to other people, but you are still struggling to have the same in the other countries. And to end, I am from Candomblé again. There is a Orisha in Candomblé, Exu, who is the Orisha of communication and the Orisha of crossroads. And a principle of Exu is reciprocity. So historically, we are being robbed by the colonialists, by these colonial societies, because Exu says, if I give it to you and you not give it to me back, you are stealing from me. So I feel that as Afro-Brazilian feminists, we are people are stealing from us for a long time, because we give, but you do not receive. And I think you have to rethink about our relations. We cannot continue to use colonial mindset to establish our relations. So, yes, it's a challenge, but we are here to change that and to use our anger to try to change that.
Thank you so much, Djamila. Our time is up. This has been so amazing. Thank you for your reflections.
Thank you so much.
And for your offerings. I just have one more request from the audience. Can we all stand up and shout that feminist fury will save us? 3, 2, 1. Feminist fury will save us. Thank you so much, and thank you, Nairobi Festival.